Ed Adams, and this is the Weekly Genealogy Toolkit, the podcast that helps new genealogists get the most out of their research time and avoid the most common pitfalls. When I was a kid and first started getting an allowance for chores, I was also given a small piggy bank that was shaped like a crayon. The pointy part of the crayon had a slit in it where you could put the coins or fold up the paper money and slide it in. I loved picking up that crayon and feeling it get heavier and heavier. I didn't really know what I wanted to spend my money on, I just knew that I liked having money. I kept using that thing for the majority of my childhood. I don't think I really stopped using it until I had a paying job getting a check every 2 weeks. Once my money started getting stored in a bank and not in my crayon, I felt like it was harder to have a sense of the in and out of my money. I couldn't exactly go pick up the bank and see how heavy it was. When I first got into genealogy, I was a single guy in a small apartment with a decent paying job. Everything was much cheaper then, especially Ancestry, so the money I spent on that first subscription didn't even seem worth paying attention to. I was having so much fun researching my past, and with Ancestry costing about half as much then as it does now, it was really cheaper than a daily coffee from your own kitchen. But then I got a membership to newspapers.com and then to footnote.com. This was back before they were all rolled into a single membership option by Ancestry. Again, none of them were all that expensive on their own, and I was having a great time. Then I found a few archives that had things that I wanted to access but charged a membership. But it was so cheap, why not? Then I bought some software to help me organize my information. I bought a couple of DNA tests. I started buying some books here and there, and next thing you know, my genealogical expenses were considerable. Then I got married and had a kid. My money started flowing in a number of new directions. My proverbial crayon was starting to get a little lighter than I liked. Every couple of years, Ancestry would hike their prices just a bit. I think they did some serious research to pick the exact right price hike. It was always just enough to make me frown and feel cheated, but not quite high enough to make me cancel. But as I look at things now, it's been about 4 years since their last actual price hike. They've hidden some features behind additional costs, which is kind of a price hike, but at least gives me the option to choose, and they're easy to subscribe and unsubscribe from without a major commitment. But my spidey senses are tingling, and I can't help but wonder if a price hike isn't far off. I'm not sure if I can justify continuing my subscription if it happens. So, let's look at how I can do genealogy on the cheap. Or at least, cheaper. First off, there's a tremendous amount of work that you can do on your family tree for free. The amazing people at Family Search work tirelessly to bring you tons of features to help you pursue your family history without ever leaving your home, and without ever paying a cent. If you aren't already familiar with Family Search, you really need to take some time and start doing some research there. You have to register for an account to use most of the website's features, but the account is free, and I've not really noticed any spam that came my way because of registering. I maybe get 1 or 2 emails a quarter from them on pertinent issues. Like your usual big genealogy website, you can make a family tree and link sources to each individual, helping you organize all the things that you're finding. While I like the actual interface for adding the sources, the rest of their person profile interface always feels a little clunky to me. I have to click a few times to figure out exactly where I'm supposed to go for some things. But when it's free, I don't complain. They do make it hard to have a family tree just for yourself that's not linked to their one world tree or whatever they call it. I find it frustrating to deal with other genealogists who come along and insert errors into the records of my ancestors, but the way it works is that your ancestor isn't really just a part of your tree. They're a public entity that anyone can put in their tree and make edits to. Think about it as if each one of your ancestors in your tree is a Wikipedia article. You can follow profiles of key ancestors that are getting a lot of mistakes added. This will notify you anytime someone makes a change. You can also add an alert note to the profile that will place a bright orange banner at the top of their page, alerting visitors that important research has been done and to read your note before they make any changes. It helps, but the whole thing is just not my favorite feature, but some people really like it. They also have over 18 billion searchable records, and many more in non-indexed collections. Well, it's not as much as Ancestry. It's pretty comparable with MyHeritage in terms of just raw record numbers. They have a pretty unique catalog too, and an interesting way to go about searching it. I like some of their catalog search features, but I would also appreciate a browsing interface similar to Ancestry and MyHeritage. The search algorithm on Family Search definitely works differently than Ancestry's, but I wouldn't say it's really better or worse, it's just different. So you'll need to play around with your search terms to figure out the best way to get the results that you want. But as is the case with every site, it's best to navigate first to the set of records you want to look at and then search there. Many times I've found items on Family Search that I just can't find anywhere else. Sometimes it's just because they have different records, but oftentimes it's because they've got different indexes for a set of records that might be better for searching the name that you're interested in. So that's Family Search, but there are tons of other things that you can do there for free. If you don't like Family Search's community-contributed trees, the only place that I've really found that lets you maintain your own tree, disconnected from anyone else's for free, is Ancestry. Yes, Ancestry is prohibitively expensive, but they don't charge you for all their features. You can register for a free account and use the family tree functions to keep track of your family tree without having to fend off all of those well-meaning people out there who would just love to say that your John Smith from Texas must be the same John Smith as theirs from Michigan. Just keep in mind that Ancestry is an online service that can change their minds at any time. Maybe at some point in the future, they decide that the family tree is a feature you should have to pay for. I doubt they'd do that, but they could, and then you're up a creek. You can download your tree as a GEDCOM file, which is an industry-standard genealogy file type, but I think it's easiest just to fork over a bit of money for some genealogy software and keep track of things there. Thankfully, the big names in the genealogy software industry have not decided to follow the well-paved path to hell that is software as a service, so they're just one-time fees, and then you own the software and anything that you do with it. I'll possibly do an episode in the future about some of the software tools available to genealogists, but that's a little more than I want to get into today. Looking at other free resources, there are some remnants of the good old Wild West days of the internet that still remain and are useful to genealogists. US GenWeb and RootsWeb have been around since the very early days of the internet. I'm talking about the birth of the World Wide Web, when a rich and visual experience on the internet was new and exciting. And they all look like they've been around that long. US GenWeb is a sort of grassroots volunteer project that got started back in 1996 in Kentucky, but has grown to cover the entire United States. It's a network of sites and pages that is, at its heart, basically about bringing the knowledge and resources of local genealogical societies into an organized online presence. You can navigate to the Gen website of your county of interest, and then, assuming that someone is caretaking that information, you'll find loads of stuff that you can't find anywhere else. School and church records, cemetery information, old news articles, photos, books, and more. There's also usually a collection of sort of help wanted and help offered, where you can list surnames that you're interested in, and you might be able to link up with a local researcher who can help. I'll admit that many counties are more or less orphaned these days, but there are still plenty of active county pages as well, and even if the page is orphaned, the information is still there, and it's not like church records expire. RootsWeb, which also hit the internet in 1996, has been put out to pasture by Ancestry that maintains it, but it's still accessible. These days, you can think of RootsWeb kind of like that drawer in your house that magically collects everything from spare rubber bands and screws to the user manual for your Black & Decker power drill. It's not particularly well organized, but it's all there. The sites that were hosted on RootsWeb are still there, but they've been made read-only, so none of them are being maintained anymore. But again, as professional diggers through time, that shouldn't really bother the genealogist. You can find sites dedicated to particular families or towns, or topics like Southern Baptists. But again, you can find some things that you just won't find anywhere else online. The chance that you're going to find that photo of McLuth High School's 1928 freshman class that has your grandfather in it anywhere else on the internet is real low. Yet another alum of the online genealogy class of 1996 is the incredible Cindy's List. Cindy is a saint in the genealogy world, and if the last two sites feel like they're covered in cobwebs, Cindy's is still very much maintained. I think she updates things on her site just about every day, and you could spend weeks just looking into the links that she's collected and not see it all. I could really probably do an episode just on Cindy's List. If you haven't already used it, as soon as you have familiarized yourself with Family Search, hop on over to her site and start poking around. It's basically the yellow pages of genealogy online. Anything that you need to find out to be able to continue your quest to uncover your family history, she's linked to the resource that will help get you there. Are you looking for information about the Eurasian Company of the Singapore Volunteer Corps? She's got a link to a website about that. Are you looking for a tool that'll help you convert Canadian legal land descriptions into latitude and longitude coordinates? She's got that too. It's a massive directory, and as far as I know, she maintains it herself, so you may occasionally stumble across a broken link, but you can report that to her and she'll get right on it. So Cindy, in the off chance that you ever end up listening to this podcast, I just wanted to say thanks for what you do. There are really lots of other free tools that are kind of genealogy adjacent, but if I went into every single free resource that's helpful in genealogy, this would be a much longer episode. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is a money spending strategy. Only a few of us have the time and money to spend our free time throughout the year working on genealogy. For the rest of us, a good strategy to follow is to plan your year in chunks. Think about the things that you want to learn this year about your family, and then think about the resources that you'll need to find those answers. So maybe you hold off on the expensive things like Ancestry until you have the time to get your money's worth out of it. If your schedule lightens up in the summer or perhaps over Christmas, look for discounts around those times and then sign up, do a bunch of research, and then when your subscription plan lapses, dedicate your time to analyzing what you found and putting the pieces together. Then, maybe the next time that you have a block of free time coming up, maybe sign up for one of the other big websites that you're interested in and see what they have. Unless this becomes your consuming passion, there's really no need to be subscribed to everything throughout the year. Most sites usually run discounts at some point in the year, so you can snag a 1 to 6 month subscription depending on the site, and do it for pretty cheap. The rest of the year, you'll always have these free resources that I've talked about. So using these free resources and following a thrifty subscription strategy, you can get a lot of genealogy done for much less than it might look like initially. Now it's time to squirrel away that crayon piggy bank of yours and go find some free family. I hope that you've heard something here that'll help you save a penny or two. If you've got some other good tips on genealogy on the cheap, please share them with me on Twitter @the WGT Pod. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.